Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I have ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all of the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and get $500 off install when you place an order, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $500 off install when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. Hi friend, I am Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior, the podcast that shows you how to optimize your health and get the most out of your high intensity training, become a great personal trainer, and start and grow your HIIT business. My former guests include the who's who in high intensity training, like Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Bay and Jim Flanagan, health, fitness and nutrition giants like Mark Sisson and Rob Wolf, successful high intensity training entrepreneurs and exercise scientists like Luke Carlson, Dr. James Fisher, Dr. Jürgen Giesing, and many, many more. This episode is also brought to you by the HIIT Business Membership. This is an online blueprint to help you grow your HIIT business, including exclusive content on sales, marketing, hiring, pricing, retention, and personal training, monthly Q&As of experts, and high-grade community full of thought leaders and high-intensity training entrepreneurs. If you're interested, please go to corporatewarrior.co/membership. My guest today is Anne-Marie Anderson. You can contact Anne-Marie over at her websites, seattlehit.com or idealexercise.net. And if you go to one of those websites, you'll be able to find phone numbers and email addresses. And Anne-Marie is very happy for you to contact her via email or phone if you want to get in touch. And as a Corporate Warrior podcast listener, Anne-Marie is offering you a free introductory workout. So when you speak to her or contact her, just mention that you heard about her and heard about Ideal Exercise through the podcast, and you will get a free introductory workout. Anne-Marie is the owner of Ideal Exercise, a recognized leader in slow, high-intensity training since 1994. Their private by-appointment training facilities in Seattle and Bellevue provide an ideal environment for their expert instructors to guide you through a weekly one-on-one workout. The Ideal Exercise training protocol efficiently achieves measurable results while emphasizing safety. Both Anne-Marie Anderson and her late husband, Greg Anderson, are legendary in high-intensity training. They've been in this business for 25 years. They've refined their protocol to be so efficient that most clients train just 3 times per month for 10 to 12 minutes per session. That works out to be about 40 workouts a year. And many of those clients have been training at Ideal Exercise for over 20 years. In this episode, we talk about Anne-Marie and Greg's history in high-intensity training and how Ideal Exercise have refined their workout protocol to provide best results. Anne-Marie shares a few stories about Greg, his HIIT coaching style, and explains exactly what happened regarding his passing, which I appreciate came as a big shock to the high-intensity training and personal training industry as a whole. And I just want to thank Anne-Marie for being so open about what happened to Greg, since it must be very difficult to talk about, and we all really appreciate you being so open about that. I am publishing this on the 1st of December 2018, which is the anniversary of Greg's death. Greg actually passed away on the 1st of December 2012. I've tried to find every resource I can on Greg in terms of every video, podcast, blog post, etc., to try and put them in a central location, a platform from which to dive into Greg's history and influence on high intensity training, which I thought would be really useful for Greg's friends and fans and those who want to learn more about Greg's history and his influence on this industry. If you'd like to add a resource, which I may have missed, please leave a comment with a link to the content on the blog post for this one, which will be over at corporatewarrior.co/Anderson, all lowercase. I really enjoyed this episode of Anne-Marie. I'm really excited to bring you this today. I feel so honored to have the opportunity to talk to Anne-Marie, to learn about her business and also Greg Anderson and his influence in high intensity training, which I understand to be huge. And so just feel very lucky to be able to bring you this today. And I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. And without any further ado, I give you Anne-Marie Anderson. Anne-Marie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lawrence. Thank you very much for having me.
You are most welcome. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
Nice
Good
morning,
stuff.
and looking forward to talking to you.
Because we haven't actually been talking for 30 minutes already. I love we always make it sound like we're just you're just picking the phone up to each other, but I think the listeners know there's been some preamble. So let's there's a lot to talk about, tons of stuff I really want to dig into with you. But the first thing, I guess, really to set the scene for those that perhaps don't know much about your background. Can you just start off by talking to us about, or talk to me about how you got into exercise, how it all started for you?
What's kind of funny about that is it basically runs in my family. My first cousin was an exercise instructor for Family Fitness, which was one of the first big gym chains around this area, at least. My grandmother, even in the 50s, she would cut out every article about exercise out of the Good Housekeeping magazines and and I still have it, a big scrapbook of all those exercises from the 50s. And my mom always had her Weight Watchers planner up on the refrigerator. So I kind of grew up in a family that was always just looking at being healthy and really working out. And I've got some old books that my dad had from early on too. So my brother was always into sports, and myself as well. But I started lifting weights when I would go into his bedroom and start picking up a barbell or a dumbbell. And because I was competitive with him, my brother was 2.5 years older than me, it's funny when I look back on it, I've always gone to failure with my weightlifting because I had to try to do more than my brother. That's
of
how
course.
That worked. Yeah. So when I'd pick up the barbell and I'd lift it as many times as I could until I couldn't lift it anymore, about 2 days later, I'd look in the mirror and I'd do a bicep curl and I go, wow, look at my bicep. It's bigger now. So that was kind of my first experience of what was going on there. And then I actually, must have been probably like 76-ish. I was about 13 and looking at Rachel McLish and Corey Everson and even buying some of those books. I don't know if they're out yet. Maybe it was a little later, but definitely when I was in high school, I actually peeked into something that was going on in the gymnasium, but the doors were locked. And I looked in the little window and I saw these girls up on stage flexing their muscles. And I went, oh my God, it's a bodybuilding show. And I watched through the window for quite a while. And I thought, I don't lift weights and my muscles are bigger than theirs. So I always thought that's something I really wanted to do. So let's see. So it kind of goes on from there. I went to Western Washington University for a year.
Hang on, did you compete as well at that stage?
Eventually, yeah, in the 90s, early 90s, I did. So yeah, so I always wanted to. It was one of my bucket list things, and kind of part of how Greg and I ended up together. So I took off to Australia, which would have been my second year of college, so 1982. And my boyfriend at the time, he and his buddy were recruited to go coach and play basketball in Australia. The coach at the basketball coach at Western Washington University was hired to start basketball in Australia. And this is strange because for whatever reason, basketball continues to be a big part of my life. So I head over, I got to stay for a year, and the guys coached and played basketball And we were up in Rockhampton in the northern part of Australia. And when I was there, I got my first professional fitness job, I guess you could say. I was a jazzercise instructor. I'd been taking dance and drill team and cheerleading, those kind of things my whole life. And so when I got to Rockhampton in Australia, I started working for Susie Martin, and she was Australia's top female bodybuilder. And she was beautiful. Oh, wow. She started what was called the Fitness Factory. It was a jazzercise business, and she had gone to California to compete in a Joe Weider competition in Pasadena, and that would have been, I think, in 1981, and had seen this. And they didn't call it aerobics at the time. It was jazzercise for sure. And so she brought that idea back. And when I got into town, I was pretty experienced at doing those sort of things. And so I worked for her and taught jazzercise / aerobics. And that was 1982. And injured my back severely doing some silly things, and kind of learned my lesson about how important it was to do exercises correctly. So I came back from Australia and continue on with my college career, and then ended up in Seattle.
You mentioned you're a big basketball fan. Forgive my ignorance. Do you still follow basketball now? And who's your local team?
So, oh goodness, it's a sensitive subject in Seattle because we no longer have our Sonics.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
They're in Oklahoma, but soon to have a team. As a matter of fact, okay, so I am. Anybody that knows me knows that I am a sports buff, big time. I am crazy about sports and having fun with it. And I'll share this with you. One of the reasons why I really love going to sporting events is with Greg and I, well, we weren't going to the opera or the symphony, which is fine with me, but I knew it was a guaranteed date if we went out to a football game, a basketball game, any of those things. So I really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I do have reservations for a new hockey league that's going to be here. So I have 2 seats reserved for that happening soon. I'm an avid Seahawks season ticket holder, and everybody knows about that. So I love going to watching Seahawks, and of course Greg was a football player. I don't know if you would know much about that. Greg ended up back in Seattle because he was signed by the World Football League, I think, at the time, and so he played football from the age of about 12 until 26 when he came to Seattle, and that's how I met him. He was working for the gym, the Nautilus gym that we started working at. Is how I met him, but that's why he was out here, even though he did have family here too. But so the basketball, why I'm still involved with it is I end up coaching quite a few basketball players. Strength coaching, of course, not coaching basketball, but strength training them with a real high intensity form of training. It works extremely well with basketball. And my buddy Mike Bradley down at Florida State, when I started training more basketball players after Greg passed, I called him. I said, "Hey, Mike, what should I do different?" He said, "Nothing different. Just exactly what you're doing. Just make sure you get them to eat a lot. They need to eat," which is true. So these boys are tall, skinny boys that are running, playing all the time, and they can barely get enough calories in. So I do a lot of coaching with the parents and the kids. Usually they're student or into. Once they get into college, I kind of lose them. Then they get involved and they're away from me when they're at college. I don't usually train them through that program, but in high school, trying to just get as many calories into them as possible. Sure. So one of my fun, examples. So I had one of my kids that came from Mount Si High School. He was 7 feet tall and 173 pounds. He had skin and no muscle on his abdomen. And so worked with his parents, made sure he's eating his 4,000 calorie smoothies in the morning to start the day. And in 17 days, 3 weeks, little over 3 weeks, we took him from 173 pounds to 200 pounds on the scale.
Wow.
So yeah.
3 weeks.
So those are the kind of things we can do with the type of training that we instruct. Yeah. And so I've trained some sort of professional, some of the guys that are playing in the Canadian leagues, the European leagues. I'll train them in their off season, things like that. Right. I work with high volumes sports like basketball, you really can't spend any time in the gym. I mean, you need to stimulate some muscle growth to make sure they lose it when they're running as much as they do, and then let them go play their sport. And it's interesting because I have to give Doug McGuff credit. I just love the term dosing the exercise, because being a good strength coach for an athlete is all about giving them the right amount of exercise during the season. Of course, off season, you're just blasting them. You try to put as much weight on as possible, right? But during the season, you have to work around their games and their practice and making sure that they're ready to perform for a game, even though they've got to get some kind of muscle stimulus in there. Otherwise, they wither away. They just run their mass off. If there's not even once every, say, 10 days is enough for those guys to keep the mass on their body and not have it shed when they're running and playing as much as they do.
Which will come as a big surprise for people that probably aren't familiar with that and aren't familiar with body-wise science. Because I remember the example they use in that, I think, is I believe Blair Wilson is the case study, and referring to his hockey career at the time. And during the season, they couldn't actually find an optimal dose without him actually losing strength or muscle mass because of the overall volume of his training, of the competitive season. And so I think they found that actually he couldn't train in season without actually losing muscle mass or something like that. Listeners may want to correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was like you said, it was lots of training, or once or twice a week off season. Then in season, they actually couldn't find an optimal, even a minimum dosage for him at that stage, which is fascinating because, if you look at a lot of the professional leagues around the world, the players are strength training multiple times a week. I mean, albeit probably nowhere near as intensely as they do at Ideal Exercise, but they are. Interesting. Okay, so you came back.
It's interesting though too. It's like Dr. Bob is an awesome. He's a Chinese medicine doctor, energy guy that works with a lot of professional athletes around here, a lot of the Seahawks. He's actually worked with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. His name's Robert Grzenek, but he worked with, it's not always a high intensity workout that these guys need. So he tends to work with them on Mondays after the Sunday games, the Seahawks, but they've already done kind of a light workout just to help and what I assume is remodel their muscle fibers after being bashed up during the game. I don't know if you're familiar with, and I talk about this with my clients quite a bit because it's one of the wonderful benefits of strength training with quality, good form exercise is Wolff's law of remodeling talks about bony structures remodeling if you train them under resistance, and Davis's law is the same thing. But if you strength train or you train your muscle fibers in the direction that they work, and you provide resistance through the range of motion, the muscle fibers will actually reform into healthy muscle fibers again, even if they're damaged. Right, and so it's a good way of rehabbing injury and making sure the muscle tissue comes back to a quality form.
I see. Doing light work then. Okay.
Yeah, just moderate light work, exactly. And then because again, during the season they really can't tolerate too much. So they're almost like active rest is a term that I use. I don't know if that's what anybody else uses, but they're training in a way for recovery, not necessarily recovery and maintenance, as opposed to trying to stimulate too much happening.
Got it. Cool.
And that's appropriate too. And it is because, even though we train our clients and we used to pride ourselves harder than anybody else in the country, or just a handful of us that train people the way we do. But it depends on the individual, and that's so much the case. And like Greg used to say, that the individual is a moving target any given day. So every time somebody walks in the gym, we're going to say, "Hey, how you doing?" And our clients are active. They're out there getting injured, playing their sports and playing their recreation. Uh-huh. So we're working around, broken hands, broken elbows, broken ankles, bad backs, whatever it is. But I can tell you, if a client can walk into the gym, we can train them.
Yeah.
That's the bottom.
That's a nice reminder of how, I guess, frequency, which differs with everyone, I suppose, because everyone's got, different recovery ability, will also differ for that same person depending on, I guess, what stresses and drawbacks they have at that moment.
Absolutely.
And as your lifestyle changes, and if I'm not doing any extracurricular stuff like basketball, which I play quite regularly, I can probably get away with 2 strength training sessions a week, at least how I do it with body weight. May not be able to do 2 ideal exercise sessions a week from what you've told me in the past. But if I'm doing basketball, then it's normally once a week, because I'm obviously doing the basketball alongside. And I think you have to, like you say, you have to be able to see that in yourself over your training career, and kind of and the training frequency will ebb and flow in that context.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Especially with athletes, of course, you have your off-season training, like we mentioned, and then in-season training. But clients, stress of life. People don't understand that like travel right now, travel really takes it out of our clients. You can expect a subpar workout if somebody has traveled in the last 3 days or so. It just takes it out of them. Dehydration, things like that. The stress of.
Is it, when you say travel, are you referring more to kind of fly, or just any long travel period?
Mostly flying. They're usually exposed to germs they're not used to. Oftentimes get sick. They're dehydrated. They're just tired from whatever activities they were doing, not just even prior to getting on the plane and traveling across the country. But stress is stress. I have to admit, and I keep trying to make myself read. I believe it's Salutare is this stress of life, and Greg had mentioned, and I try to explain to my clients, it doesn't matter what kind of stress, it all adds up. You can only recover from so much stress, whether it's emotional stress, psychological stress, physical stress. Recovering from an injury, our clients, if somebody, like I've got a couple that are recovering from broken bones, and one of them, finally, she's making great progress, but it's taken a year for that bone to recover. And so during the time that she's recovering from that major injury, she's not making great progress in the other parts of her workout. She's making slow progress, but all of a sudden, right about the time that the injury is healed, then we get to see the really fast progress that we like to see with our clients. And that can continue for almost indefinitely, as long as you're like Doug, quote unquote, from Doug McGuff, as long as you're dosing the client properly, whether it's frequency, whether it's once or twice a week. We have some clients that have been with us, and we have quite a few, more than 20 years. This coming June, will be 25 years in business, so got to have the big party then. But
Wow.
I've got about 20 clients that have been with us at least that long, and some of them that were in the gym that we bought before we even bought it, that were clients of mine. And, they're out there, and I got to tell you, they're all looking at least 10 years younger. And
Sure.
the proof is I'll tell you what, the proof is in the pudding. We have got these at least 25, about 20 clients have been with me at least 25 years. And they, on average, train 3 times a month. Our clients train about 40 times a year. That's 95% of them do, except there's a handful that have been training for a long time. There's about 5 that train twice a week. But of course, it's never 8 times a month. It's more like 6 times a month because everybody misses a few. But these clients, they're all in great health. They look great. They haven't overused their bodies exercising. They don't have joint problems. If they have to have joint replacements from whatever reason, congenital reasons usually, they're up and at them and right back in the gym right away. Our clients usually don't go to physical therapy unless it's a long-term chronic issue. And they're in the perfect cardiovascular health. We have no issues there. And again, it's 10 to 12 minutes 3 times a month for 25 years, and everybody's doing great.
That's awesome. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm looking at kind of things I would love to cover with you, Anne-Marie, and I'm conscious of time, and there's so much. So I might skip a few steps. But just going back to your career, I'm going to, and feel free to interject, but I know you obviously had a career of Nautilus as a Northwest marketing director in 89, yeah, and then eventually opened or bought a Nautilus place, which then became Ideal Exercise in 94. I'd actually like to talk about how you ended up scaling that down to one-on-one training only and ripping out all the cardio equipment in 96. Can we just go straight there if that's,
sure.
Can you elaborate on that?
Definitely. Yeah. So we're getting into the whole super slow thing, and here we are. We bought the North Seattle Northwest Nautilus gym, and we had our stationary bikes and our treadmills. And the first thing we did to try to create an environment that we could actually do the super slow training with some privacy out on the workout floor was impossible. We had a very busy gym, and you'd have to wait for equipment. We couldn't set up ahead of time, so we couldn't make it like a circuit training like we'd like. And so we took this little daycare area. It was 600 square feet, and ordered some Power Plus equipment, which is the plate load Nautilus equipment from that time, because it was a little less expensive, and used that 600 square feet to open our first personal training only area. And what was kind of cool about it is, I'm pretty sure, and my numbers get wrong, I think it was, we pre-sold at least, it was either 17 or 30,000, I can't remember. I think it was at least $17,000 of pre-sales for personal training even before we put the equipment in the room. We would just take people into this quiet room and say, wouldn't you rather train in here rather than out on that loud commercial floor? And they said yes, and handed us money, and we opened our first little 600 square foot space. And then we decided that it was pretty, what do I want to say? We were preaching that people shouldn't be doing aerobic activities. And here we have all these treadmills and bikes, which I really hated because I got to be the one to do the maintenance on them. Yuck. Stairmasters. Ooh, all sweaty and yucky. Anyway, so we took the long weekend in 1996 96, and took out all of the treadmills, took out all of the cardiovascular equipment, or cardio equipment as they called it, and then opened up on a Monday morning, and boy, the clients were upset. And, we said, look, we're preaching to you that you shouldn't use this stuff. It doesn't make sense for us to have it on our workout floor. And so we made that big change. And we were talking a little earlier about, I was standing at the front desk one day, right around that time, and got a call from, I'm pretty sure this is correct, Mike, you can correct me or let me know I'm picking the wrong person, but I'm pretty sure it was Mike Moran out of Green Bay. And he was telling me about the fact that the police had to come because he had closed down or canceled his aerobic classes. And one of the aerobic instructors was so freaked out about it and so upset that she latched herself onto one of the Nautilus machines and wouldn't let go and wouldn't leave. And she was crying. And so they had to call the police to take her away. And Mike was kind of upset, but we were kind of laughing about all that too, thinking how crazy to be so emotional about aerobics. But it's true. And I think anybody that's ever been around strength training environment or got away from doing too many aerobics, people get really emotional about their aerobic exercise, which is okay, but it was a funny circumstance with having some moral support about making the big changeover. And, maybe it was a little extreme at the time, but it all worked out in the end. And when we downsized again, actually within 2 more years, I think by maybe even the next year, we moved across the street and just had personal training and actually got out of our old bigger gym that was not very cost effective at that time. So.
Okay. That's a very interesting story and quite hilarious. And I guess I always, a lot of people listening to this podcast will understand the lack of need. At least most of us believe, for those sort of traditional cardio machines, and that the intense resistance training itself will stimulate and improve the cardiovascular system. But I guess the reason I say that is because some of the people listening to this might not appreciate the humor and the rationale around removing all of those machines. Although it's funny because it's, maybe some people feel this is a settled debate, but I recently had Dr. Martin Gabala and Dr. Wayne Westcott on the podcast, both talking about where high intensity interval training and similar modalities may play a role in improving health span. Alongside high intensity strength training, which I know everyone has their own view, but there's if people want to see or they listen to those and see the debates going on the blog, it's pretty crazy right now. There's about 50 plus comments, I think, on both blog posts. But alas, we do know that resistance training will improve the cardiovascular system to some extent, for sure. Anyway, just wanted to kind of get that in there, just so people understood the reason for that. Yeah.
Like I said, I have these. I don't know. It's probably about. Well, most of our clients have been with us at least 10 years, but this group of about 20 that've been with us at least 25 years. They're all in perfect cardiovascular health with 10 minutes of work a week. But it's intense work. You can't work your cardiovascular system any greater than you can work your muscular system. And there's no way that you can work your muscular system any harder than if you're doing super heavy squats or super heavy leg presses, or, pushing your body's physical ability to the limit. That's where the cardiovascular work is happening. Definitely.
One thing I really wanted to learn about is talking to you first, Anne-Marie, I got a real sense that your workouts at Ideal Exercise are incredibly productive. And it sounds like, from what you've told me, you've really developed your own style. I'd love to hear, how you feel Ideal Exercise provides maybe quite a unique approach to training, something perhaps that you don't see in perhaps some of your competitor or other kind of HIIT studios. What do you think you guys do differently? And do you want to just kind of elaborate on, I guess, the protocols that you use to get the best results for your clients?
Sure. Well, really, I think it starts with the fact that every workout routine is tailor-made for the client we're training. And like you mentioned, and that changes over time. There are times that clients are training, maybe they're training to run a marathon, or right now, my good buddy Mike Flynn, he is going to be training in the senior games down in October down in Utah. He's 78 years old and growing young like all the rest of my clients. And I have to really keep an eye on him because he likes to add too many sprints in. And if he sprints twice a week rather than once a week, he makes no progress. If I keep him to once a week, then he makes great progress. And at 78 years old, using more weight on the leg press than most of my healthy, maybe middle-aged guys. So depending on whether the client is participating in sports, whether they are, and we talked a little bit about this, going through cancer treatment and chemotherapy. And sadly, enough that I have to say that I have a few on my schedule now that are, fighting cancer and going through chemo and continuing to train. And we adapt the workout. Of course, their workouts now aren't the same as they were, 2 years ago when they were healthy and not fighting their cancer and going through those treatments. But what I think the thing that's really important is that we try to move through the equipment or through the exercises at a pretty rapid pace. So we set everything up ahead of time and move straight through without really any rest if possible. The biggest thing, Lawrence, is going to failure and applying the thorough inroad technique that they talk about in the super slow technical manual that Ken talks about. But early on, we did apply it too much and too hard. We were trying to have people push much too long, much too hard, and really kind of digging into their recovery ability more than we needed to. So now when we go to failure, we're definitely at failure because there's definitely no movement. The client is pushing or pulling on the weight as hard as they can, as fast as they can, but there's no movement happening. That only needs to happen for a few seconds to make sure that the client is completely fatigued. They've emptied all their glycogen stores or muscle fuel. They're into, and this is extremely important, this is why our clients can get the results that they do in 10 minutes, that they're into a fight or flight primal brain mode, that they are at a point where the body thinks that if it doesn't get stronger, it's going to perish. And that happens when you're pushing or pulling on a weight that's so heavy that you can't move it, that your body thinks that it's a life or death or fight or flight threat. And that entire, and I don't know if I could call it a global stimulus, but it's not the mechanical work that we're doing, not just the mechanical work, but it's getting the mind to a point that it knows it has to upregulate every single system of the body or it may perish. And it's all about the body moving forward, procreating, survival. Always, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's really about getting people to true failure, and not everybody can get there, but we get them as close as we can, and we always make progress. If our clients aren't making progress every single workout, something needs to change, unless they've gone and climbed Mount Rainier, or, they come back from a trip across the country 2 days earlier. But generally speaking, our clients make progress every workout, and if not, we might need to regulate, almost always it's once a week. It doesn't really work once every 10 days. That would be optimal for most people, but with scheduling, it's a nightmare. So people train once a week. We give them enough exercise that they can recover within that week's time to make sure that there's progress on the workout card. And we keep impeccable progress using a stopwatch, looking at time under loads, which are amazing because the time that people can track their muscles, either in a muscle group or a specific muscle that they're working, it's very precise. Like I might have a client that 2 weeks ago, they did the bench press and it was 51 seconds. And that's a little on the low end of the time under load. Uh-huh. But then 2 weeks later, they come back in and maybe they've been traveling, so they're a little tired. They get off the bench press. It's exactly 51 seconds. Which is I think, like Doug talks about in the Body by Science book, about fiber typing. Our muscles, contract for a certain amount of time depending on what type of fibers that they have and how many of which, and that's very site specific too, depending on how you train your muscles. So, but yeah, it's very the muscle fiber to the second, very precise. Yeah, I'm always curious whether other people see that, where it's the person's hitting the exact same time. Maybe it's a minute 7 on the leg press every single time. I think where Doug calls it that signature time under load. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to dig into this for a second. Actually, I'd love to know. No, firstly, yes, I can absolutely 100% relate to that as well as many others in terms of the, when you get to a certain point in an exercise, it's like you just fail at the same time under load over and over again, and it's not necessarily due to lack of recovery, in my opinion. It's just that's where you get to, and it's at that point where I guess one can microload or use other techniques in order to continue to progress potentially. I'd love to hear, you mentioned there, a client should improve most of the time every workout. So let's say this happens, right? You get a client come, they do let's say, a simple Big 5 type exercise regime. They do the same performance that they did the week before. Let's say they've had 7 days off. What would you do when they finish their second workout, and you're kind of thinking, okay, where do we go from here? What is your thought process, and will you ask them some questions to figure out what's changed in their lifestyle or their what else they've been up to? Like, I just want to understand, like, how do you determine how much more recovery a client needs when they look like they're plateauing?
Well, usually what we would do is we wouldn't change frequency. Pretty much everybody's on that once a week schedule, except Dick Morgan, who is my oldest client. He'll turn 89 years old in November, and he's in great shape. We train him once every 2 weeks. About 5 years ago, he had been plateaued for years. And we decided, well, every time he had to miss a workout, he always did better, if it was 2 weeks later. So about 5 years ago, we put him on a once every 2 week program, and he makes still nonstop progress on the leg press every single workout, practically. As long as he got the flu a few months ago, so that made it a little tough. But so with every client when they come, and every client that walks in the door, we're saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" And there's always communication that happens. "Oh, great! I'm doing really great." Well, if that's the case, and I'm like, "Well, are you well rested?" Yeah. So I might put 3 extra pounds on their leg press rather than 1. Or if they come in and they said, "I just got off a flight last night from China," I will probably not progress their exercise as much, to make sure. And really what we're trying to do is keep them in the right time under load. We want them to get at least that 50 seconds up to a minute and a half, maybe at the very most, if they're having a really great day. But we don't want the time dropping down. So if they're not in their top form, because that's what they've communicated to us, then we're probably not going to make those increases. And like you talked about, always microloading, because, we really... a lot of times we don't even increase the time, like you mentioned. A lot of times, if the time under load is staying very consistent, we progress in singly in that we only progress in weight. So, like I've got a few people on the leg press where every week they hit a minute. Well, one I'm thinking of specifically, a minute 8 seconds. I can put a pound on every week, and they'll hit a minute 8.
Got it.
And this just happened on Friday. The person came, I knew they'd had a little extra time off, so I gave them 3 extra pounds instead of 1, just to see. And I wanted to push the envelope a little bit to see, could he really take that 3-pound increase? I love adding more weight. I think it's really, really important that the weight is extremely heavy. Long sets in my opinion, don't work as well as shorter, heavier sets. And we're talking about, somewhere between, we like our clients somewhere between 50 seconds up to about a minute 10, minute 20. And anybody that's been training with us for a long time, when you get in that minute 20 range, that's a really long set. If they're used to 50 seconds, that's like 2 or 3 extra reps, which is really rough.
It's a sufferfest, isn't it, at that stage?
Oh, man, it's all relative what's going on there. Yeah, there's a lot of communication. So, and sometimes I realize 1 or 2 exercises in, they're having a great day. So I might just add a little extra weight as we move on, as opposed to what I was maybe deciding to do originally. But really, really keeping the client going to failure, really pushing them to not have anything left. And really, there are multiple things that happen. If the weight's still moving a little bit, you haven't fatigued all your muscles. And most usually to get to the smaller, and I'm not sure if it's the right term, ancillary muscles, the smaller muscles, say the subscapular muscles around the shoulders.
Sure.
You have to fatigue the larger muscles before you get there. So if you, say, are pulling on a compound row and you're pulling toward you, and there's still movement, you have not fatigued all the muscles in your upper back and arms. There's still something left. And it's really important that we fatigue everything to get at everything, every muscle fiber we can get at, recruiting everything as deeply as possible. And that's really important for your metabolic system. You need to drain your glycogen stores to stay, and I hope this is right, insulin sensitive and just healthy metabolically. And, it's like I think about, I have a lot of seniors because being in business this long, our clients that were with us, at 40, now they're 65 and they're all a little older, but we don't really have any incidence of diabetes, and even I think about it, all the elderly people that are diabetic and all they need to do is drain their glycogen stores once a week with 3 or 4 exercises. And that's it. Just working with seniors and elderly people, they can gain so much out of it. And I don't understand why it's still not as, well, actually, I will back up. So Medicare, and I'll put this out there for people to check into. Medicare has programs that independent insurance, when people have extra insurance with their Medicare, the insurance companies have either Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit programs. Those programs are paying people's health club memberships. Okay. There are about 5 gyms. Yeah. So if you have anybody out there that has a client that has Medicare Plus or any of the extra insurance and they have Silver Sneakers and Silver and Fit, that facility should, or anybody else listening that has that insurance, needs to look into seeing about either having their gym membership paid for up to $20. I think one of my clients, actually Joe Pizzorno, who is a founder of Bastyr, he had joined one of the local box gyms with 24-hour fitness, I believe. And every time he'd go in there, they were getting $20 from his insurance, his supplemental insurance through Medicare. So that's something to look at, which is a great trend. I mean, that's the trend of even the government recognizing that really strength training and exercising is the way to go and trying to prevent.
It's great to see. It's great to hear. There was sorry, Anne-Marie, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, good friend. Yeah.
No, there was, I don't know if you saw, but there was a great article in the New York Times recently, which was talking about, I think, a study that Brad Schoenfeld and his colleagues did on set volume. Now, people can debate the productivity of 1 versus 3 versus 5 sets all day long. I don't really care about that. But what I did care about was the fact that the article said very explicitly that 13 minutes of exercise a week was productive. incredibly in terms of improving strength and muscle hypertrophy, which we all know is true, all of us in high intensity training. We know that you can probably do less than that and get good results. But it's cool to see this being in the mainstream more often. You do see every now and again an article, in mainstream media, which, mainstream media is for the most part incredibly, are guilty of misinforming everyone. So to see some good stuff in there is really, really nice to see. A couple of things that came to mind when you were talking then is I remember watching, in preparation for this, I was watching a YouTube video, and I believe it was your late husband, Greg, coaching someone through a seated row. And I loved it because at the end, the chap is like really struggling to complete the final rep. And I know we've all been there in a seated row where you really just want to, like, you're trying so hard to just get your shoulder blades back and bring those handles into your body. And Greg's like, just says the right thing. He's like, finish it. And he's like repeating this to the guy, and the guy doesn't manage to do it. I think he gets close, but the point is just to obviously, as you say, drive enormous amount of fatigue and really get to the muscular failure. And I just thought it was great coaching. And I was watching it, I was like, I can see why so many people revere Greg so much. And we'll certainly talk about him in more detail in a second. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, ARX. Are you looking to create a cutting-edge, high-intensity training facility? Are you confused on what equipment to use or how to separate yourself from the masses? Well, then ARX Fit might be the answer you're looking for. I asked Mike Polano from ARX a few questions about how ARX machines are challenging the status quo of the exercise industry around the globe. Mike, if you could, give the listeners a quick summary of why ARX is so different from the traditional machines or tools they're used to seeing in most exercise facilities.
ARX is totally different than anything you've seen before. This isn't just another weight stack machine. We've looked at the last 40 years of exercise technology and used that knowledge to create something entirely new. ARX uses a new form of resistance, a motor, and we pair that motor with computer software so that we can maximize the safety, effectiveness, and efficiency of your workouts. So you may be asking, okay, but how does ARX compare to weights? Traditional machines you see in gyms today are based on lifting metal weights and battling gravity. What people don't realize is that when you're forced to lift a static weight like this, one that doesn't adapt or change while you use it, you're underloading yourself rep after rep. And this unnecessarily limits your ability to make improvements. With ARX, we've taken a totally different approach. We removed weights and gravity from the equation altogether. Instead, ARX combines our patented motorized resistance with our custom computer software to provide you with the world's safest, most effective, and most quantified form of resistance training ever. When you train with ARX, you are training to your perfect level of resistance, both positively and negatively 100% of the time. No more guessing what weight to use. ARX does all of that for you, instantly and automatically. We'll also track and measure every second of every rep, so you can quantify all of your workouts to find out if you're improving and by exactly how much. Whether your goals are bigger muscles, increased strength, stronger bones, or just to look good in a bathing suit, ARX can help you achieve all of these and more, but do so in a fraction of the time it would take compared to traditional equipment. If you're looking for the most efficient, most effective, and most quantified piece of exercise equipment on the market today, then look no further than ARX.
Thanks, Mike. That all sounds really impressive. If you'd like to learn more about ARX, visit arxfit.com and mention that you heard about ARX on the Corporate Warrior podcast to receive an exclusive deal of $500 off shipping and installation off your ARX machines. I get a lot. It's interesting. I talk to a lot of obviously different high intensity training business owners and trainers, and I hear obviously all their different protocols and recommendations for the right frequency and stuff like that. Now, maybe you can help me reconcile this. So it would seem that the majority of people I speak to will train their clients twice a week. Now, we're talking, and the protocol is not a million miles away from yours, from what I understand. So it's single set to failure, pretty quick workout, moving from machine to machine fairly fast. working out to muscular fatigue or muscular failure. And they found that twice a week is productive, even throughout, a long-term training career. However, when I talk to people like you and obviously, Doug McGuff and some others, they will say that once a week is optimal. And obviously we're generalizing, but, generally once a week is better versus twice a week.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, why is that? Why is there this discrepancy between these two frequency differences? Yeah.
It's a funny business model to say, we tell our clients, usually when in doubt, less is more when it comes to exercise. More is never better.
Okay.
You can't continue to do more is better with exercise. But everybody's so different in how they recover. And so what we get a lot of is people that first start and they want to lose some body fat very quickly. They're going to be in a wedding. They're going to go on vacation. And in the beginning, they can train twice a week. It's over time that as they get stronger, as they get more skilled at performing the exercise and better at just inroading their strength while they're actually exercising, they will need more recovery time. We can reduce, and I'll tell you specifically what we do. Say we've got somebody that wants to train twice a week. And like I said, I have a handful of them that always have. These are computer programmers that do nothing outside the gym. Okay? They're not participating in any sports. They're barely moving. They're sitting at their computers all day, and they're gaming at their computers all day, right? Or if they're playing, it's not active. So those people are recovering much easier, so they can tolerate twice a week. Some people's intensity level is such that they are not able to really tap into their metabolism, I guess, or just not, I guess, just genetically can't work themselves as hard as the next person. And they can tolerate a little more. They're working as hard as they can as long as they're pushing themselves to failure, but it doesn't really inroad them. For instance, a very weak elderly person doesn't have enough strength to really even tap into their recovery ability much. Right? I mean, they're so weak that when they move around, it's not doing all that much. As they get stronger, they're going to affect their metabolic system more. They're going to need more recovery as they get stronger and move forward. So with our clients, a lot of times in the beginning, they can train twice a week, but as time goes on, they're going to need more recovery time. Then we would back them off to once a week, or what we do a lot of times with people twice a week, what we do before we back them off to once a week. It depends on, and some people just do better with a twice a week workout, and that's okay too. But what we do is rather than have the leg press twice a week, which is an exercise that is very, it's going to take away from your recovery ability more than any other exercise in the gym other than squats. So we would not do the leg press twice a week. And what we do is we do leg press and then another workout, maybe quite a bit of upper body and maybe a big compound movement, like a traditional big five movement, like leg press, pull down, bench, compound row overhead. That one day, and then the other workout during the week. And if now I'm lucky because I have good variety of equipment in my gym and we can do this, but we do a rotary movement type of exercise routine that's much easier to recover from. So it might be leg extension, leg curl, 10-degree chest, or, just an isolating chest movement, like a chest fly or pec fly. And maybe an abdominal and a calf, just some rotary movements that they can recover from, to give them more time to recover from that bigger workout when you're doing something like a big five. So just changing exercises to make sure that they can recover from those exercises, because you're always going to recover from single joint movements easier than compound movements. And so we just try to create, and I have a recipe for my workouts. So we always start with the leg press. And that's, I think, like most people, the logic is, to get your metabolism going and start working. And also the leg press shows your true progress. If you continue to get strong on the leg press, even if your upper body suffers a little bit, you're getting stronger. There's no way you can get stronger on the leg press and be losing muscle at the same time. So it's a good indication. If we do it first every time, we know that's like a very common or a very consistent way of measuring somebody's progress. So because I like to keep things really consistent, I tend to go do leg press, maybe a pull down, bench, abdominal. And that's kind of the first 4 exercises of the core of the routine to keep it consistent. And then at the end of the routine, we alternate in maybe a leg curl, abduction, adduction, leg extension, some other lower body exercise to just supplement the leg press, which is generally all you really need, except for, some people need to work their hamstrings or calves or whatever, depending on, what a lot of people, or we have to work around injury. That's a big thing of what we do is working around injury because people are injured all the time. Mm-hmm. And I get injured people. We get injured people because they look up safe exercise. So we get the fallout from CrossFit and yoga.
Selection bias there, yeah.
And they do, they end up getting injured and they look for some place to train. The other big group that we draw is osteoporotic women. There are no drugs out there for them, and other exercise programs that are faster and higher force are just not safe enough for them. So I have a big group of older osteoporotic women in the gym.
Cool.
But I'll talk about Mary. So Mary came in osteoporotic 13 years ago. Within about 2 years, within the first 6 months or so, she stopped losing bone density. And within a couple of years, she was at par. And now at 73 years old, she is well above. There's no diminish. I don't know how to say it. She's well above the level she should be at for her age with bone density.
Sure. Awesome.
So, yeah. So as long as a person's not in a disease state, like I have a client that is celiac, and that really, I guess, strips the minerals from the bones. But if you're a person that just is slight, maybe didn't have much athletic experience or force on their bones, growing up, you can still get that bone density happening with good, safe exercise, like super slow and good strength training.
Yeah.
Careful strength training.
No, thank you. That was very interesting. And I guess one of the things to also say is I wonder many of those studios that do advocate twice a week, with the caveat that obviously everyone's different in terms of recovery ability. So I'm talking generally. I think a lot of those, and I know from this is true for some businesses based on conversations, is that some of their populations that they work with just cannot train that hard, just can't get to muscular failure. And obviously, to your point, if that's the case, then more frequency may be more beneficial for those people. And so that is obviously part of this argument as well. I want to talk about. I do want to get into talk about Greg for sure, and his influence. But I just want to take a moment to bounce back to talking about some of the people that you work with who are suffering from cancer. You've been in operation for a long time, and you've worked with people who have had cancer and passed on. You work with people now that are going through chemotherapy. Have you seen much benefit in terms of high intensity training on alleviating and in some cases helping people actually, I don't want to say cure people from cancer, but go into remission or reduce the effects of cancer on them? Have you seen that sort of thing?
No, not really. No, and quite honestly, I haven't had much cancer in my gym up until about 3 years ago, and now it's crazy. I have 2 women trying to survive cancer that are continuing to go on chemotherapy treatments. I think for their state of mind, it's extremely important that they need to keep coming back and stimulating a healing process. I know that it does. Every time we strength train somebody, and it's a brief experience, a half an hour of what we do would definitely do them in, but the 10 minutes that we stimulate the body, it stimulates the body to heal itself. And so I'm sure theoretically it has to be beneficial that way, but definitely psychologically the clients like to continue to come into the gym and train. It's what they want to do. As a matter of fact, I signed up a gentleman who was not surviving stomach cancer, and he just wanted to come back into the gym. He was a referral from their family members, but he wanted to come back in the gym so he could get into shape to go back into the gym. He wanted to go back and power clean and do his powerlifting sort of moves, but he knew he wasn't in shape because he'd had surgery. So he thought he could just kind of come and do our sort of workout and be okay doing that as a stepping stone back to the gym. But that didn't happen. So, but it was, psychologically, it was everything for him.
And that person knew that they were terminal. Was that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's
He
incredibly
was
sad.
hoping not. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it keeps them strong. I mean, I'm sure it stimulates muscle growth that they might be deteriorating if they were just sitting around being poisoned by the chemotherapy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a positive thing. I'm not sure if it could cure anything, but definitely be part of somebody helping cure themselves or get themselves into remission. We had a client. She trained just for 8 years fighting cancer, and she would come in and train when she could, and they would take breaks from the chemotherapy. But she was terminal at some point. But it took 8 years for the cancer to get her, and she trained off and on, and it was a positive thing for her to come in and with her husband and the other family members all trained too. And so, yeah, it's a good thing.
I guess it, obviously depends on the type of cancer. I mean, some cancers are far more aggressive and hard to beat than others. And I think, I completely agree with what you were saying there about, high intensity training may be really effective to aid someone in terms of building muscle and give them a better baseline going into something like chemotherapy, where they're likely to waste lean mass. And we talked about that before we went online. But I do think, it's just my belief that obviously the cause of cancer, it would seem, based on what little I know, is very multifactorial. Different stresses, diet seems to play a role. I think it's fairly. I'm going to be a bit. I need to be careful here, but I think it's fairly well established that most cancer cells are obligate glucose metabolizers. So if you are, in my opinion, eating too much or too much of the wrong things, that can really speed up that process. So it would seem to me that HIIT plays like a synergistic role in preventing, or certainly preventing, cancer cells from growing or appearing in the body. But I don't know if it has any effect on programmed cell death and actually, helping people to cure themselves of cancer. Although I do have one listener, Malcolm, if you're listening, who I know is has cancer currently and seems to be doing excellent. Seems to be living a very healthy lifestyle, training, eating, I think, more of a ketogenic diet. Malcolm might want to correct me on that, but I think that's what you told me last. So he seems to be doing really well. It would seem that at the very least, to your point, really, that this type of training combined with a healthy lifestyle can really make someone's quality of life far better during that post diagnosis than it would be otherwise, is what I've seen.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. And and I tell my clients, especially as they get older, want to have a little bit of extra body fat, definitely extra lean mass. If they are going to lose weight, they want to be losing. If they run out of the body fat, they want to have a lot of lean mass to be working on also. More mass on your body is always better for sure. Right. And good lean mass, but even for older people, you don't want to have a 90-year-old woman that's skin and bones, or a little bit of muscle and no body fat at all.
Sure.
A few extra calories for the older seniors is not a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. So obviously really want to talk about Greg. Greg is a huge hero for many of our colleagues in this industry. I didn't obviously know Greg, or I'm quite late into the game. So I've come into this, after everything happened. But I've read the blog posts from people who are my heroes, people like Doug and Skylar, Bill's Dave Simone's workout that he did as a memento. It clearly he's a fantastic guy and incredibly good at his craft. I was reading Michael Allen Smith's blog, Critical Mass. And I took this excerpt out, which I thought was, I'll just read it because I thought it was really cool. He just said, what I didn't get until my workout with Greg was that intensity really means, what intensity really means. Now, this is after he'd read Body by Science, and I think he started doing HIIT, but he hadn't really trained with someone like Greg yet. And he said, after this workout and a follow-up session with Greg, I became a believer and disciple of high-intensity training. People laugh when I tell them I work out just 10 to 15 minutes per week. They wouldn't laugh had they experienced the HIIT workout by Greg Anderson. Those first 9 minutes I spent with Greg will forever be seared in my memory, which is so cool.
Yeah. I got to tell you, because I have a certain handful of clients that I just love to beat the crap out of. And part of it, they go back. So Greg trained me. So back in, what was it? Where were we? When I first met him working at the gym, I wanted to either go back to college or bodybuild. And that was kind of a bucket list. I started talking about, we never really got to finish the conversation about me competing. And he, oh my God, he would take me, and it was twice a week. And for 25 minutes, he would put it on me, and just beat the crap out of me. And it would just be, just one set to failure, right on to the next, right on to the next, right on to the next. And so I think about it, and it's funny because I swear to God, I channel him sometimes. I'll say something to a client, I'm like giving them forced reps or a forced negative or something, and I'll say something and I'll think, oh my God, that's Greg talking. True. It's fun. He's definitely in the gym. He's actually, his ashes are in our gym, just hanging out there. That was his church. He always said that when I go to church, it was Sunday morning when he went to work out. And so, so he's definitely in spirit all the time in the gym, for sure.
What was he like as a trainer? Can you give us some, perhaps other stories or things that come to mind in terms of how he approached training? Yeah.
It was interesting because he didn't say a whole lot. So he didn't have a lot of conversation with the client, if they had an injury or something, but he was pretty dogmatic about doing pretty much the same routine. He would put people on the same routine for years. And it would work. It does. I mean, I've been doing the same 4 exercise routines for 25, 30 years myself. I don't really care about variety either, but it was always just 4 or 5 exercises, and he would just push them. It didn't matter who it was, whether it was little Marilyn, in her 80s, or whether it was some high school basketball player or college basketball player. He'd just kind of just take them through. But he was I think that's what people really liked. He would say the right thing at the right time, but he wouldn't say a lot. And so,
less is more.
Yes. I think with him, with instruction, less was more, for sure.
And I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that YouTube video I saw, that was Greg talking. What have you got any, I guess, because there's a number of trainers that will be listening to this. Any tips, things he would say that were quite effective that perhaps you've, I should also say, Anne-Marie, I know that, you're highly successful in your own right and a great trainer. So I don't want to claim that Greg has taught you everything, which is how this is coming across. But I would love to know if any more. Yeah,
we were learning side by side. Actually, Ken Hutchins certified me because he certified our staff, a few, but definitely we weren't going to go through him certifying me. That would not have worked very well at all. So Ken Hutchins certified me, but we were learning hand in hand, and over the years, it's the base is definitely super slow protocol, and then just refining it to the point where we could do 2 times a week. Because really, the first super slow programs were twice a week, and just getting it where the workout was so efficient about the way that we keep, how efficiently we can fatigue the body. And it's hard because I could talk about some techniques, but I don't know if they make a whole lot of sense. But I think, let's see, what was your question? Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's fine. It's just anything that comes to mind in terms of techniques or things that Greg would say or do that really made him a standout trainer.
I think even for me, repeating something like just saying go, go, go. And emphasizing something and making it very simple. Really, I'll tell you what good instruction is. And I go through this whenever we have a new exercise, and I have to make sure that we all can verbalize the instruction in a way that everybody understands it. And that's the trick. The best instruction is how to get everybody to do the same thing in the least amount of words. Okay. So for instance, if I say to somebody belt in to the pull down machine, if I say belt in, people think it's a different word. They know what I'm saying. And so it doesn't work for good instruction. If I say put your seatbelt on, it's more words, but it works every time. Yeah. So we're always looking for the least amount of words for instruction that everybody gets. And it takes a little bit of trial and error to find that, but that's kind of what we're looking for. But to coach somebody, a lot of time, just repeating the same one word over and over gets them to perform. That works.
Yeah. I wonder, because I've seen him. I saw another demonstration where he was coaching someone on a pull down. I think it was like an old Nautilus pull down. And at the end, when the guy's really, starting to bite the dust, he says, speed up, to get through that middle quicker when you're really tired. That's obviously something that a lot of people use now. I hear that a lot. I use that myself. I'm wondering, did Greg start that, or would that perhaps come from Ken, or yeah?
The speed up thing?
Yeah, the whole speed up, like, you know what I'm saying? Like during the end of the set where it's really, really hard. Yeah.
Well, that's just how it has to happen. So when say you're doing the pull down and you're pulling and it starts getting heavy enough, it starts to bog down. Then we have to go, and these are the instructions I want my instructors to use, and I use gradually, barely, a little faster. That's Ken's instruction, that going barely, gradually, a little faster as it starts to bog down. That's super slow instruction for sure. Because remember, when you're pushing or pulling at the end of the set, you're going as fast as you can in that isometric, right? So you're isometric trying to push or pull, but you have to go as fast as you can to be truly going to failure. So at the end of the set, we always say, okay, so you're going, gradually go a little faster, try to keep it smooth. As it bogs down, gradually a little faster now, start to go. So as it bogs down, and once it starts to stop, we'll say, okay, go as fast as you can, keep pushing, fast as you can go, fast as you can pull, or fast as you can push, whichever is appropriate. So yeah, so that was definitely a super slow thing, just because it's the right instruction, I think, to get them to really be failing.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Following sort of Greg's passing, there was obviously a lot of shock and surprise in the high intensity training community.
All of that. Oh my goodness, yeah.
As you know better than anyone, surely high intensity training turns us all into immortal, right? Which is obviously not the case. And I don't actually know personally. I think I read a long time ago, but forgive me, I've forgotten. I don't recall how he died, and just would really appreciate you explaining, I guess, what happened, and just to explain that a little bit more so that people understand.
Sure. And it's not in writing out there. It's the only people that know would be the people that I've told directly, or that those people have told other people. And I don't mind talking about it now, and I always know people want to know. So Greg inherited some kind of metabolic syndrome where he laid down calcium on his body everywhere he was damaged. And the problem was, and I kind of liken it to, if you are diabetic and you do everything right, you can live a long, healthy, productive, functional life. But if you do everything wrong from an early age, then you're probably not going to be, longevity is not in the future, probably. Okay. So Greg started playing football about the age of 12 and up till 26 years old into semi-pro football. And then after that, he spent at least another 10 years in martial arts, kicking and punching and doing that, which he was a third Dan and published a great book called Weapons in Hand. And some people out there would know of it and read it. Pretty good book. So he ended up with this syndrome of laying down this calcium where he was damaged. So about 10 years before he died, which he died on December 1st of 2012. And 10 years before that, he was starting to get some like knobbiness from the calcium laying down on his hands. And the first thing that was really obvious was he had calcific bursitis on his elbows. So from playing football and blocking and martial arts, and then also having his hands broken from playing center and being stepped on, that's where some of that calcium started laying down first. And so we tried to do some things 10 years prior to his passing. And even, Doug McGuff was really great, saying, the meds that they wanted to give him weren't going to help for what he had, which was just a weird syndrome of, not just, it wasn't, he had some arthritis, some gouty symptoms, but it really was arthritis and the whatever caused his body to want to lay that calcium down. So he did pretty good up until about a year before he passed. In the beginning of 2012, he slipped and fell and had a pretty bad big bruise on his back and spent a couple weeks in bed. And then things just went downhill pretty quickly, because then he I think he fell again. No, we got rear-ended in our car, so he got hit again. So this whole time, his body is being more and more damaged. He's laying down more and more calcium, and we got to the end of the year, and things seemed to be going okay. You know, he was getting pretty weak and not feeling good, and really it was obvious. It was like laying down on his knee where he hit that when we got rear-ended in our car and things like that. So right about 10 days before he passed, he was getting ready to come back to work, and he hadn't really been in the gym all that much, but he slipped down our stairs and hurt his back. We thought he hurt his back. So he was in bed thinking he had a back injury, but not doing very well. And so he then just pretty much went into a coma and passed. And so it was like, didn't really expect that to happen. The worst part was having to call all the clients and tell them, and, you know, and none of it, even, and this is so goofy because even right before, you know, maybe it would have been about 10 days before, he had a bruise on his back from falling down the stairs, and he hadn't been in the gym. And I showed my client, said, look, he's still alive. You know, here's a picture of him. Now he fell down the stairs. He's going to be a little while before he comes back again. And then 10 days after that, he passed. And the reason for his passing, and I had no idea, I called Doug McGuff, and I'm like, what happened? It's like, what happened? He fell down the stairs. Why is he not here anymore? Right. And so I didn't talk to Doug until the next day, but he, the cause of death was that the calcium that he was laying down, he laid down enough calcium in all three main arteries into his heart that it stops the blood from going through. And interestingly enough, in the morning, he had kind of fainted, and I called 911, and they came, and he didn't want to go to the hospital, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything for him anyway, I'm sure. But his vital signs were fine. His heart was beating hard, trying to get that blood through his body. And that calcium just laid down enough from that last fall. I think it just, and, you know, a good friend of ours said, gee, Anne-Marie, I hope the calcium's not laying down on his organs too, you know, in addition to his joints. And so his, whatever his grandfather's syndrome was, he inherited it, and just too many falls, too much damage to his body. And, but, you know, he was a big, strong man, and everybody knew he lived his life hard, or at least strong, and with lots of personality, and his body gave up on him. But yeah, so.
Well, thank you so much for being so open about that. It's just really interesting and useful to understand that. So basically, like, you know, I guess to also summarize what you're saying, it was hereditary, and then also exacerbated by all of the activities he did throughout his life.
Damage, big damage to 12, absolutely. So I have to say it was interesting because Dennis Beckman commented to me. He's actually the one that certified Greg. He asked me if I had anything like any hair samples so they could check his DNA and see what some of that metabolic stuff was. And just so you know, I do. I kept his brush. I said, if anybody wants to check the DNA for whatever syndrome, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, you know, I heard somebody tell me that they knew somebody that actually had a similar thing, but they laid down copper. They laid copper down on their organs. That's not crazy. Yeah, crazy. And the only reason we knew it was genetic is only a couple of years before he passed, his mother said, "Oh, your hands look just like your grandfather's."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's because, you know, they got pretty bony pretty quickly.
The calcification around the heart is quite common now in people that not necessarily the hereditary side, but in terms of people that seem to be living fairly abusive lifestyles, you know. It would seem, I've heard a number of anecdotes, I suppose, of people who have had a calcification scan done, and they've been, you know, on the outside they look pretty fit and healthy, they're fairly active, whatever, you know, eat their healthy whole grains and all that. But right,
is that the coronary calcium score? Is that?
Yes,
I think definitely. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I got a great story about that.
Oh yeah, please.
So our client, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to finish and say that person who looked very fit and healthy, they were actually at a very high risk of heart attack due to the calcification in their arteries, which the scan showed. And then they reversed that, or they claim to have reversed that with moving to more of a kind of ketogenic, high fat, low carb diet with, I believe, with strength training. I don't know the details of it, but that's at least the claim. But yeah, please tell me your story. I'm interested.
Yeah. So we had a client, and he had been with us for, he was only about 40, but he'd been with us since his early 20s. And his brother and his father had horrible heart disease. And he came in and he said, they want to put me on 2 statin drugs a day. And we're like, oh, no, you don't want that. Right. And we said, look, did they do a coronary calcium score? As a matter of fact, I just wrote this down for a client yesterday. They said that she had some issues. And I said, did they check your coronary calcium score? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, go find out. And if not, go get it checked. So this other person was talking about, so his father and brother, horrible heart disease. He says they want to put him on 2 statins a day. We said, go get your coronary calcium score. He came back. His score was 0. Wow. 0. He'd been strength training since he was 23 years old, and he was 40.
Yeah.
And so, but here's the moral of the story is, why are they putting on a drug that he doesn't need?
It was a high blood pressure or something else? Or?
Just, anyway, statin drugs are for cholesterol.
Oh right.
So they might put a bunch of statins, but he didn't need them, and they didn't bother doing the test. They just want to sell the drugs.
Yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with Dave Feldman's work. He's quite popular on Twitter right now, from what I've seen, and he's done some kind of N=1 type stuff to show how much cholesterol can fluctuate over the course of a week, and how I'm not going to go as far as saying meaningless, but how it is not useful to look at HDL and LDL in all circumstances. It would seem so.
Yeah, these are downstream. These are downstream symptoms. Yeah,
right.
Right.
But
it's great though, because Dr. Naiman, like he's my new instructor. He was a patient of Dr. Naiman's, which is how he found me. Okay. And Dr. Naiman said, you need to get your LDLs lower. And so he went out and started doing high intensity activities, like recreational activities and cardio, high intensity cardio. And he goes back for his yearly annual, and he says, no, your LDLs are still too high. You need to do high intensity strength training. There is no pill. That's your only option.
I love Ted.
So my instructor finds the Body by Science book and starts doing it on his own, and gets really intrigued and into the whole thing and the lifestyle. And now he's working for me, and he's got really low LDLs because he high intensity strength trained, not high intensity recreate or cardio trains, right? That's not the answer. It's got to be strength training.
Just before we depart, I guess the conversation around the calcifications, calcium score and calcification scan. There's a great, well, actually, I shouldn't say great because I've not watched it, so I can't say that. But I've heard that there's a very, very good documentary, and it comes very highly recommended, called The Widowmaker, which is all about this insidious issue. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. One of my clients talked about it.
Yeah, so I believe that's actually about the chap I was talking about earlier. So I'll put that in the show notes because it's certainly something that I'm meaning to watch, and I'm sure it'll be very interesting. And also, you mentioned before we went online that Greg Anderson did a podcast with Patty and Dave Durrell.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's still available, but I'll reach out to them and see if it is, if they're happy, then see if we could perhaps embed that in the post. Because I'd love to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If not, I know I have a recording of it somewhere in my backup somewhere that I can maybe find it and put it on our website as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be good to create. I know obviously people have wrote blog posts about Greg, but it'd be great to also create just some great memories for people, and just put as many links to stuff about him as possible. Would be really, really awesome. And okay, so that's sort of brings us on to some of the final things I want to talk to you about, Anne-Marie. One of those is I wanted to ask you about some things we were talking about previous. You've got some big projects on the go. So do you want to talk about what you're currently working on and what's important to you over the next, I guess, sort of 6 to 12 months with regard to exercise and business?
Sure. Well, I'm not looking at expanding my gyms any more than the two that I have now. And the reason I have my second gym in Bellevue is they put tolls on our bridges, and it backed up the traffic to the point half of my clientele would not come to my gym. So I had to open another facility on the other side of the lake. But what I'm looking at is actually certifying and licensing people. I'm not really interested in opening more gyms, but there is such a huge need for good exercise instructors. And even just downtown Seattle, there are so many high rises of people that need to exercise and no place to go and no time to do it. And so even to try to get from downtown to my gym, which is less than 10 miles, can take you an hour and a half during regular prime traffic time. So we need more good instructors out there instructing exercise in a way that's safe and efficient and effective for so many of these people that need to start exercising, right? Most people can do 10 minutes of hard work once a week and they'll do it, if that's all it is. So and then I'm really, really, I think my life mission, if I dare say that, is working with seniors. Even since 1993, the Tufts University research project came out about how within like 12 weeks, you can take a senior that's below the independent living line and bring them above it. And, people are living so long that, for one, we can't use up our bodies exercising, running, doing things like CrossFit, doing high volume, high force activities. It wears out our bodies. I've got these people that have to have hip replacements because of all the running, and they're too young to be having hip replacements. And, if we're going to live to be 100 years old, we certainly need to stay fit and functional and not use our bodies up. Absolutely. So working with seniors, keeping them from being diabetic, keeping them from us being osteoporotic, for that matter, and from falls. And I just know that at least the ideal exercise form of exercise will make such a huge difference for just the longevity and happiness of our seniors as time goes on.
Yeah, and the population's only getting older, right?
What's it going to double here?
Yeah.
Or at least the senior population is going to it's blossoming because of the baby booming group, right?
Right. Although it doesn't actually, I say that, but then I also think maybe that will reverse direction because sadly, isn't it like the youngest generation are the first generation who are likely to, I hate to say this, but die before their parents? Am I getting that incorrect based on the,
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Okay, so this is what's scary. So Joe Pizzorno, I mentioned before, he put out a book called The Toxin Fix. And he talks about the fact that in the last 50 years, the increase of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease runs parallel with the increase in toxins, like all the plastics that we use, we consume water and food out of. And what's really scary is not just me, but my other friends and peers, the people that are being diagnosed with cancer are between the age of about 55 and 62. That means that we've all been exposed to these toxins for our whole lives. And it's strange, though, because I had no cancer in my gym 3-4 years ago, yet now this group of 50-some-year-olds are contracting the cancers, and it's almost rampant. It's strange. And I don't really understand any other reason than maybe the toxins that are in our environment. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a big contributor. I probably agree with you on that. Anne-Marie, what's the best way for people to find out more about you? Also be worth just mentioning, I guess, where your locations are and best way to contact you.
The best way to contact us would be you can look at our website, which is seattlehit.com or idealexercise.net. Or you can call our phone numbers. Email is actually on the website. There's a place where you can email us and write a note or ask questions or request an appointment if you'd like to come and see us. I'll tell you what, I'll do something really nice here. So generally, we don't give away first introductory workouts, which is like the hour-long teaching workout to get somebody started. It's generally only for referrals from our current clientele. But if somebody off of these that listens to the podcast calls up and says, I listened to your podcast, I'll go ahead and give a complimentary introductory workout.
That's very kind of you.
Your site. Sure. Love that. Because that means they're interested and it's, we're busy with introductory workouts all the time, but I definitely want to make sure that people that really want to get onto this schedule can get on and try it out and make a good decision that they want to do it and start up, make it easier for them.
I know, and I'm sure, I really appreciate that. I'm sure the listeners really, really appreciate that too. So hopefully we can drive some more people to your gyms for sure. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with? Any parting words on, I guess, things you've learned about training or even training business that come to mind that you want to kind of leave the listeners with at all?
So I'd also like to mention that, and now that I've been thinking about it a little bit, that definitely strength training intensely, briefly, infrequently, is cancer preventative. I'm not sure if we can do a whole lot for people other than helping them with their cancer treatments, but the healthier we are, the less likely we're going to get cancer. So I think we want to make sure we stay fit, strong, do all the right things, and try to avoid any disease that we can. And also, I want to thank everybody for reaching out to me when Greg passed. It was really special to hear from everybody. And if I didn't get back to you, I apologize. I get kind of busy sometimes, but I think of all of you a lot. And thanks so much for making it easier for me at the time. Okay, so go train, get stronger, grow younger.
No, well said. I think that's a great way to wrap this one up, Anne-Marie. And thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And for everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to corporatewarrior.co/Anderson. That's all lowercase. And for all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.co/podcast. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Before you head off, head on over to corporatewarrior.co/ebook to get a bunch of goodies, including number 1, a free ebook of podcast transcripts with some of my top guests like Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Bay, and Bill Simone on how to optimize muscle gain, fat loss, and overall health in an efficient, effective, and sustainable way. Number 2, a free high-intensity training business checklist to help you get more clients in your business. And number 3, a free high-intensity training Google Sheet to help you track and improve your training progress. Head on over to corporatewarrior.co/ebook now and enter your email address for instant access. This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I have ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all of the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and get $500 off install when you place an order, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior and How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $500 off install when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior and How Did You Hear About Us field.